Welcome back, updating the hour's top stories and still following here on Nile TV International, the electoral process, Egypt's parliamentary elections. The polling stations earlier opened for the second day in Cairo and 12 other governorates for the second stage of the parliamentary elections. Voting takes place between 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. Monday is the second and the final day of voting, with the runoff round, which is scheduled between November the 30th and the 2nd of December. Voting abroad was concluded on Sunday night. A number of 222 individual seats are contested by hundreds of candidates in the second round. For party lists, there is a total of 60 seats in 2 constituencies in Cairo and Nile Delta. A total of 160,000 army personnel were deployed to secure the polling stations in 13 governorates in which the second stage of the parliamentary elections take place. The 13 governorates voting are Cairo, قليوبية, منوفية, شرقية, غربية, كفر الشيخ, دمياط, Port Said, Ismailiyah, Suez, north and south of Sinai. And seeing the electoral process through the eyes of our correspondents throughout the different governorates participating in the parliamentary elections this round. And we have with us our correspondent, Mona Musilhi. Mona is in Sayyida Zainab constituency. Good day to you, Mona.
Yes, good day to you, Taghreed. And
Mona.
yes, I'm here. Yes, hello, Taghreed, do you hear me?
Yes, dear. Tell us more about the electoral process. How smoothly is it going in the Sayyida Zainab constituency?
Yes, just a wrap up to yesterday. We've seen a higher turnout than the first phase, where we have seen just only on the first day more than 15% of participation. Today it's a half day working, and we are of course expecting people to come later in the afternoon. The turnout is mostly for elders and middle age people. We have also seen some of the youths participating, and this time more than the first phase of what we have seen. Taghreed. Hello?
Mona, well, this is considered to be the second day. How about the participation? Tell us more about the turnout and more also concerning categories that are actually participating. Women were dominating the scene and also the elderly. How about today, the categories participating up to now at the constituency in Sayyida Zainab while you are standing?
Can you please repeat your question, because I guess I didn't hear that.
Yes,
very well.
Mona, I was talking about the categories participating. Women were dominating the scene actually yesterday. How about today, the elderly, the youth, the participation on behalf of the different segments of the society?
Right. This constituency, or this polling station I'm here in, consists of 4 polling stations, mainly for men and elders, particularly the middle-aged men and the elders. But there are, of course, other polling stations around here showing the participation of women. But from what I heard from some of the police and other sources here, that also the turnout for women is higher and higher than youths, if I may speak, because elders and middle-aged men are already participating heavily.
Yes. How about the half day of today that has already been agreed by the cabinet? How far has this given a better chance for people to take part?
Today we have been seeing a lot of observers from embassies, from international organizations, from world bodies. We've seen a team from the Arab League coming early in the morning. We've seen some other observers from many embassies, including, of course, the Embassy of Poland and the Embassy of Mozambique. We've also seen some of the African organizations taking part in the observation mission. So it seems we have tried to take some of their own observation of what they have seen in many of the polling stations. Some of them refuse to give us any of their own observations, saying that they will be reporting them. But if we can just speak of what came out of them, they said that the whole atmosphere is positive, very positive.
Thank you, Mona. I hope it is going to continue positively, as you're mentioning, and we'll be continuing the following up of the electoral process. That was our colleague, correspondent Mona Moselhi, speaking to us live from Sayyida Zainab constituency. Deputy Foreign Minister Ambassador Hamdi Louza said that more than 37,000 Egyptian expats voted in the second phase of the parliamentary elections. He said that the number represents a 22% increase in the turnout than the first phase. Egyptians voted Saturday and Sunday in 139 embassies and consulates. The Higher Electoral Commission is yet to announce the results of the vote. Foreign Minister Sameh Shukri held a number of meetings on Monday with the South Korean officials during his visit to Seoul. In his meeting with head of the Foreign Relations Committee in Parliament, Shukri discussed boosting bilateral relations. The visit comes as South Korea and Egypt had marked 20th anniversary for establishing diplomatic relations. During his visit, Shukri reiterated Egypt's keenness on boosting economic cooperation with Seoul. The Foreign Minister's visit is part of the preparations for President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi's visit to South Korea. Shukri kicked off an Asian tour Sunday that includes South Korea and Japan for talks on political as well as economic relations. In Japan, Shukri will meet with officials from the Japanese Agency for International Cooperation and the Bank of Japan. And Brussels began a third consecutive day in lockdown under a maximum terror alert Monday after Belgian police staged a series of raids but failed to find key Paris attacks suspect Salah Abdeslam. In an unprecedented security operation for the European capital, schools, universities and metro were shut in the face of what the Prime Minister Charles Michel had called a serious and imminent threat of attacks similar to those that killed 130 people in France. The Belgian police on Sunday carried out 19 raids in Brussels and 3 in the industrial town of Charleroi, that is detaining 16 people. The driver of a car was injured after police fired 2 shots when the vehicle drove at officers. And we're still following up the electoral process here in Egypt. Parliament 2015, a different parliament, a very special one for Egypt and Egyptians, and the final step of the roadmap. And with us from Shubra constituency, our colleague Riham Mursi, our correspondent over there. Good day, Riham, and tell us how smooth is the operation going on in Shubra constituency?
Good afternoon, Tagreed. Let me tell you a bit about what's happening today. The flow of people was quite large earlier in the morning. We saw a lot of young people coming in from the ages of 18 to 25 earlier in the morning. But then later on in the afternoon, the flow started to slow down a bit. And we're starting to see more elderly people coming in to vote. We see that the police themselves have a lot of wheelchairs available for the people who have disabilities or they're too old to go up the stairs. And the judge himself comes down to help them, give them a voting ballots and help them with the polling situation itself. And then they take the ballots themselves upstairs to the polling stations. Also earlier there was an observing team from the International Democracy Observers Unit. I tried to speak to them. They didn't really want to speak a lot about what was happening in the elections or give their opinion about it. But what I gathered from them was that they saw that the elections here are very similar to the ones that they saw in Tunisia. They said they were observing in Tunisia. And even the setup itself was very similar to what they saw there with the added security here in Egypt. They spoke to us a lot about the fact that the polling stations are extremely secure from the army and police, unlike what they've seen in Tunisia. They also spoke about the turnout rate. They expect it to be around 30%, but these numbers are obviously not confirmed. But from what they've seen is that it should be something around that range.
Yeah, Riham, tell us more about what sort of similarities did they find between Egypt and Tunisia and this experience while they were observing the elections?
Well, the similarities that they saw, they spoke about how the election process itself was set up. They said that also in Tunisia, the way they set it up was that they put different polling stations inside schools. In addition, the papers that are stuck on to the walls of the schools with the names of the voters and which polling stations they're supposed to head to. They spoke about how the judges organized the polling itself and how it's very similar to what they saw in Tunisia. The only differences between here and Tunisia was the turnout rate there was higher, but when I spoke to them more about it, they said that during the Tunisian elections, it was the presidential elections. So the number of people expected to turn up for the presidency is much higher than parliament.
Yeah, the human side that you were talking about with judges helping the elderly and going downstairs themselves to help them cast their vote, this is definitely making a difference. And how about the categories participating? This means that we have the elderly dominating the scene. How about women and youth?
Could you repeat that last part? I couldn't hear it properly.
Yes, please. I was just talking about what you mentioned concerning how the judges are helping the elderly actually cast their vote.
Yes.
Are the elderly dominating the scene at the constituency in Shubra, or how about women and the youth and their participation?
Well, I couldn't really hear the question properly, but from what I gathered from what you're trying to say is if they're turning up in large numbers. Yes, the elderly are turning up in very large numbers. Even if they have disabilities and they can't really walk, for instance, they are turning up trying to vote. And when you speak to one of them or any of them, the reason why they're turning up is they think that this is a way they can benefit the country and help with economic prosperity. They're hoping that the members of parliament will represent them, in addition to making Egypt move forward in its democratic path. They insisted on showing up in numbers, and they knew obviously beforehand that they would have assistance and help from the judges and the police and the army to help them during the voting process. So this encouraged them to show up in larger numbers.
Right. Riham, did you get in touch with some of the voters concerning the criteria according to which they have based their choice for the candidate that they are going to vote for?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Yeah, I was talking about the criteria according to which the voters come today to cast
Yes.
their votes. Was there enough information concerning the candidates themselves? Did they read
Yes.
them well before coming to cast their vote?
Basically there are about 34 candidates here in Shubra voting, that are running rather for parliamentary elections and running for 2 individual seats. Most people in Shubra and Urdu Farag already are very well informed about their candidates because they're used to, a lot of the people here, a lot of them are very well known in the district itself, and they know how many candidates that are supposed to run for parliament, and they know exactly the number of seats that are required in parliament for this district. As for the irregularities, there weren't really any irregularities. We didn't really see a lot of problems. I was even speaking yesterday with one of the members of the Higher Electoral Committee. He spoke about how things are going very smoothly. The only problems that really faced people was a slight confusion about where their polling stations are, but this was sorted out very quickly. Where we didn't see any violations from the parliament members themselves, though, or any sort of advertising was seen around the area. We see a lot of their observers coming in and out to get the numbers, but no actual coaxing of people to vote towards one person or another.
Right. Our correspondent in Shubra constituency, Riham Mursi, thank you so much for updating us, and we'll be continuing